Well, hello, everybody. I know that you're wondering why we are here on this evening, but we wanted to come to you with a very special segment. What I first want you to do is I want you to go ahead and like and to share this broadcast. We're going to have a great time on tonight. And I'll just go ahead and leave that there. See, I'm learning new tricks every single day. So it's a great thing. Go ahead and like and share. Go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is Prison Break with Shirley and Shonda. We have a special edition here on tonight, and we just want to bring you some things that we've been talking about in our secret spaces. So we have a few ladies here. We do have a few others that will be joining us on tonight, but we're just so grateful that we have this platform, this opportunity, and this space to come to you with what has been on our hearts. And so, Shonda, if you'll go ahead and introduce our topic on tonight.
Okay, I sure will, Shirley. So tonight we wanted to really unpack what it means to allow our kings the space to have the position of authority back in our homes and in our lives the way that God said that they're supposed to. And so this was really prompted by a discussion that we had last week where we were going over a meme that a young man put on Facebook. I would like to read a part of it so that I could kind of bring the discussion together. And I won't read the whole thing. I'll just read the bottom part of it, the part that was most impactful to us. And it's basically talking about the Black woman and about her support and about how it has lent itself to the community for such a long time. And this is what the gentleman posted. Matter of fact, I'll just read the whole thing. It says, please stop glorifying Black women and girls as strong race soldiers and fixers for Black communities, and in particularly for Black men. The most disrespected, unprotected, and neglected group should not be at the front lines. It further dehumanizes them. Listen to Black women on this. It further strips them of their womanhood and femininity in a society that already does this. Be very careful about what imagery you project and the message that you send. In the very patriarchal society that we live in, men protect women, but Black women have protected men and everyone else. The support and glorification of Black women is also very one-dimensional and mostly focuses on what they can do for men and for everyone else. It's a support that isn't reciprocated over some of social issues that affect them. We mostly praise Black women for how much abuse they can endure, for their strength, and how much emotional labor they can provide for us. That alone is dehumanizing. Think about what you're contributing to. And please, let's listen to Black women on this. You are causing harm. Protect Black women. And so part of what came out of the discussion that we had last week in bringing up these issues about how Black women have been called to be in the front and have been in the forefront for so long is that we've done it for so long that we have kind of merged into the space where our men are supposed to be supporting us, and we no longer now have the space for them any longer. And I don't mean that as me as in me or you as in you, but we as in women in general have more adopted this mindset that doesn't lend itself to a man being alongside of us. And we want to kind of counteract that. We want men to be back in their rightful place in our homes, in our lives, in our thoughts, in our hearts, and really begin to bridge the gap between what's going on with men and women, specifically in the Black community. And we really want to bring our men home, and we really want to step aside and no longer occupy spaces where we're not supposed to be anymore.
Yes, thank you, Shonda. And so we just kind of want to clear the air. We want to open up this dialogue, this conversation, so that we can begin to heal. And so I know in the beginning part of 2020, this is what was laid on my heart by God, that men, this is a year for their healing. This is a year for them to be able to get back to where they're supposed to be. However, we as the woman, we have a powerful, powerful position in that. Because if we think we're in charge and we're not allowing them that rightful place, then how are they going to want to? So we have to begin to mend these relationships, and it's going to start with us as individuals, man and woman. Take your rightful space and go ahead and do what it is that you need to do for yourself. So right now I'm going to add in two other ladies. We're going to introduce everyone. Awesome. So go ahead, right here, right next to me. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, ladies. Hi, queens. I'm Siani, and uh, I'm here to learn. I'm here to give input. I'm here to grow because we all can use it. Um, I am 36 years old. I have one daughter, and I'm looking forward to growing with you, ladies, and learning more about our men.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Shonda.
I thought you were going to somebody else next.
Well, I'm just going by who I see on the screen going across.
I'm with it. I am Shonda Kerb. I am a pastoral counselor here in the local city of Killeen, Texas. I am also one half of Prison Break with Shirley and Shonda, where we endeavor to break down walls, mind, body, and spirit. I'm so grateful to be on this panel tonight. I've been enjoying the discussions that we've been having, and everyone who knows me knows I have a heart for relationships, and especially for men, for our Black men especially, and for them being in their place, wherever it is that God has desired for them to be, that is where they should be. And I believe that when men and women get back in their rightful places, then families will be mended and issues will be resolved and problems will be healed and solved. So I'm really grateful for this talk on tonight.
Amen. Go ahead, Sandy.
Hi, my name is Sandy D. Johnson, and I'm a vision and accountability coach. The name of my company is Envision Your Life, where I host vision boards that produce results, and I also host a yearly retreat called My Story, My Journey. And I'm just excited to be a part of this conversation, helping to heal the gap.
Yes. Thank you, Miss Sandy. Go ahead, Kiana. Hold on for a second. Go ahead. You have to unmute yourself. It's not allowing me to unmute you.
I'm sorry about that, y'all. Technical difficulties, Eddie. I'm in a whole nother place tonight. Hello, everybody. My name is Kiana. For you all that don't know, I am a co-owner of Words Unite Bookstore and Event Center. I'm also the CEO of Lacasia Enterprises, where I do a lot of other things, in addition to faith empowerment strategies for individuals. So I am so excited for this topic, man. Shonda and Shirley have been rocking, and it's been so much growth and so much understanding, even than I didn't have before. So I'm just excited to be a part of this panel.
Thank you, Kiana. All right, now we have Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Hey, queens. Hey, queens. It's so nice to see those beautiful faces again. I'm Taylor Stevens. I'm a licensed social worker and therapist in New Jersey, where I have a private practice and I work full-time with active duty family members and, active duty soldiers. So I'm just pretty excited about all of this. This topic is one that needs to be talked about. I myself am a single mom of two boys, 18 and 13. So what I know it's like to have to take on certain roles and where I've learned that from. So I'm just interested in learning and kind of giving where I can.
Awesome. So as y'all can see, we have a plethora of different backgrounds here in the room. And I think pretty much every one of you know me. I'm Shirley Latour, one half of Prison Break with Shirley and Shonda. I also am a publisher and a whole lot of other stuff that does not mean a hill of beans right now. Why we are here is because we do these things called women's, I won't say empowerment, but they are. And so how we came upon this particular discussion is we were watching a movie called Overcomer together as a virtual movie. And then we did a Bible study. It was a 5-week session over it. And last week, they were like, we don't want to end this. We want to keep on going. And so we're going to be doing some other things for that. So you'll want to stay to the end and I will let you know what our next movie is going to be. It is starting next week. So I just want to put that little disclaimer out there and we're going to keep it moving and it's open to everybody. So tonight, I want to just be the commentator. I'm just going to ask some questions. Each of the ladies gave me some questions that I wanted to ask of those who are not just here in the room with us, but those who are listening in. You are more than welcome. Our Facebook viewers, our YouTube listeners, you're more than welcome to go ahead and drop those comments in the link. We want to hear from you. We want to know where you are tuning in from. So we see a few people and we don't have much time. So we're going to jump right into this discussion. So I have some questions because again, our topic is wanted. men back on their throne in their rightful places. But there are some reasons why some of them have stepped away. And we do shoulder some of that responsibility, either something that we've learned and continue to perpetuate, or something is out of ignorance. And so we want to clear the air. We want to open these doors for communication to be had, and so that our homes can be healed. This is perfect time during coronavirus. You stuck at home anyway. You might as well learn how to get along, okay? So, so I'm going to throw out a couple questions. They don't know who the question is going to be posed for, but we are going to get right into it. So I had someone to ask a few questions. And this one I'm going to pose to Miss Sandy. And the question is, do you take on the role of head of household, whether or not you're in a relationship? And do you not trust others due to past letdowns or hurt? And where do you find your strength? I know that's a loaded question.
Yes, like 20 questions. Yeah. Well, as far as being the head of household, because I was a single mom, like many of the ladies on here, I didn't have a choice but to be the head of household. And I was married briefly, and I can say I did not step out of that role. And that was due to not trusting the person to make good decisions that would benefit the whole family. Now, what was the rest of the question?
Do you not trust others due to past letdowns or hurt?
I think it was the not just the past letdowns. That was just a piece of it. But when you see a person not making good choices in their own life, and that was on me because I married this person. But when you see that, then you're not, especially if you've been handling everything, so willing to just let the rein go. Was it right? No, I shouldn't have married a person that I could not trust to release the rein. And what was the last part of the question?
Where do you find your strength?
I think I find my strength in God, and that He's faithful regardless of what it looks like.
Okay. Do any of you think that maybe you you have now or in the past felt like God has failed you because someone on earth failed you? And do you attribute that to not trusting God fully?
I won't say that I feel like God has failed me. A lot of times you have to own what you did. I married this person without consulting him. So the burden of that fell on me. What was the second part of the question? I'm sorry.
That's good. We're going to go on. Yeah. So in your answering that question, someone else posed this question, but I'm going to give the answer for this one. It says, why are Black women praised for the amount of crap they can take and put up with? This is the answer to that. It has to do with us women knowing our self-worth, knowing who made us and whose we are. But it not just goes for us, but it goes for the man as well. When he knows his worth, when he knows how God made him, then we can, as an individual and as a cohort, come together knowing our worth. Then we won't fall for the okie doke, so to speak. Okay, I did it myself because I didn't value myself. Why? Because of past hurts and pains. Did those things happen? So we have to take those things into account. We have another sister joining us, Miss Latanya. Y'all bear with her. She has young children. Of all of us, she has the young children. So welcome, Latanya. And so we're going to give Miss Latanya a second to get seated and go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone. And then we're going to go on with the questions.
Hi everyone. Like she said, I'm Latanya Dennis. I'm a teacher here in Killeen. I have 2 little kids, and I'm married to my husband in the military. So that's who I am.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Latanya. All right. So I know that most of us have boys. No, a couple of us do not have boys. Most of us have girls. So how did you learn about adulthood? Miss Siani, how did you learn about adulthood?
You mean like relationship wise, or just being in a relationship with a man going into adulthood, or having a child?
You
or
can spin
what?
it off of that because we are talking about men.
Well, it was really from trial and error, to be honest. It was pretty much trial and error. I had to make mistakes to figure out what to do and what not to do, or who to talk to and who not to talk to.
That's good. That's a great pointer, because not only do women do this, but men do this as well, because we don't always have the right, we don't always have the role models that we need in our home growing up. And so all of those things from childhood, they perpetuate into they go right into our adulthood if we have not stopped to take the time to learn who we are. First of all, first and foremost, we have not learned to go to God, if we have not learned that there is a better way. And so a lot of times we do this thing by trial and error. I'm raising my hand first and foremost. I have made many mistakes, trial and error, but praise God, He has helped us, through these times to make it to this point where we can help to educate others and to be enlightened ourselves. And so the second portion of that is, did you learn from your mother, father, or your neighborhood? And I want to tie that in to how do we feel about men and where they learn how to do the same thing? Because a lot of times we feel like we're in a bubble, right? And we feel like, I'm the only one going through this. But if we would step back and take a moment to realize that sometimes he was broken too. A lot of times he was broken too. So in order for him to get back on the throne, we have to unlearn some things. We have to go through that healing process. So go ahead, Shonda.
No, I was just going to say, I know that I'm on my second marriage. This is my second marriage. And I know that going into both of them, I assumed that I kind of knew what it meant to be a wife or in a relationship based on what I thought that I witnessed as part of my childhood. But it wasn't until my current husband, we've been together 16 years now. So it wasn't until I really began to look at his process of what it meant to be a husband and a father that I realized that I didn't have it all together. I had a set of behaviors that I had watched and that I was mimicking in relationship, but I didn't really know what it meant to be a wife. And it wasn't until I had to walk beside him in his process of really unlearning some things that I realized I didn't know as much as I thought that I did. And I really didn't have any room to stand and be critical of what he was doing as a man or not doing as a man. It wasn't until I went through that process with him. So I think that, and I know for a fact that we as women sometimes come into things because women and girls and boys are raised different. I even find myself doing it. And I have to chastise myself not to allow my boys to do certain things just because they're boys that I wouldn't have let my daughter do. My daughter's the oldest. I never would have let her do some things that I allow my boy.
Exactly.
Oh, she froze up, y'all. All right. So when she unfreezes, you might have to leave out Shonda and come back in. I'm not sure what happened to her location. But we are going to go on. I know that was a thought from heaven, and that's why her camera froze. But we're gonna come back to her. And so even the statement that the young man posted on Facebook of how we're praised for being the fixers and picking up men and the household and doing all of these things. I know I came to a point in my marriage. I was married for 16 years before the divorce was final. And I came to a point about that 13, 14 year mark. I was done. Like, I'm not doing another thing. I cannot carry all of this weight. I've asked for help and the help has not been rendered unto me. And I'm not about to lose my mind or my life. Right. So I stopped doing a whole lot of things. And so it wasn't until that point when I realized, hey, you have, first of all, you put him before God. You saw him as God. And so when I decided I was going to put God back in his rightful place, when I was going to serve him and serve him only. And there are some things in marriage that you must do for one another. However, we cannot put our spouses before God. And when we do that, we have messed up the whole hierarchy of the system. Exactly. And so when we do that, God has to get our attention somehow, right? So he's going to get our attention, and he is a loving God. And through that, through his grace, he allows us to continue on in our process. But there are certain things that we have to know. In that time, I learned who I was. I learned my self-worth during that time. I learned who I was made to be, and it's been a continual process. But I realized, had I not gone through the things that I went through then, I would not be where I am now. It is the same thing for a man. He has processes too, right? He has things that he goes through. He's got some childhood hurts that were not addressed, you know. And us women, we'll sit around and we'll talk and we'll chat it up and do all this stuff. But I know for a fact that it's different for men. So when I came to a point in the beginning of 2017, and I realized, hey, this man got some hurts going on of his own, right? And he has to be able to deal with those things. But when I stopped judging him and gave him back over to God and allowed God to deal with him as his son, because that's who he was, though he was making mistakes, it doesn't matter. He's still a son. And I know this is a hard truth for a lot of people to swallow, but I'm going to tell the truth. I have to. I was delivered for this reason. So when we allow God to handle them, he will handle them. In the process, we can be made better. Okay. And sometimes our healing is in the breaking. You know, even through our brokenness, he does those things. He puts us back on the potter's wheel, and he reshapes us, and he remolds us, and he allows us to be what he would have us to be. When a bone is broken, guess what? When it's molded in that cast, when it calcifies over, that bone is stronger after it's been broken and reset than it was before it was ever broken. So I want you all to take that. Everybody that's listening, I want you to take that. I want you to marinate on that. We have to be broken in order for things to be put back in order, in order for them to be put back in place. In order for our men to get back on their throne, we have to allow them that space and that grace. Okay? Because not only have we been hurt, but they've been hurt too. I have a 21-year-old son, and I sit and I watch him, you know, since he's been back home from college, and I sit and I watch him, and I observe and I can see hurt in his eyes. Some of it I may have caused, some of it his father or his stepfather may have caused, but we have to be open and honest and candid enough to sit down and to be able to reconcile with one another. None of us know it all. No, none of us had this manual of how, you know, life was supposed to be, other than the word of God, the Bible, right? That is the ultimate instruction. And so if we can get back to the instruction manual, we can figure out our next steps. We can figure out how we can progress forward. But I was watching, then I'm gonna throw out another question. I was watching a men's healing topic the other day. Miss Shonda says her internet completely went out. That ain't nothing but the devil. Wow. That don't ever happen. And we go live all the time. And so I was watching a men's healing segment, and there was a question that was posed, and that thing blew me away. And I can't remember the question verbatim, but it says something like, what is the woman's role in the men's healing process? Right? We are fixers, right? Mamas, we fixers.
Compassion. Mm-hmm.
Our compassion nurture takes over. Our nurture takes over. Thank you. Welcome back, Shonda. Let me add her back in.
Hi.
So there was a question that was posed. It says that we as Black women, we are named as fixers in the community. We're fixers in our home. And shouldn't it be a joint venture? Well, on that men's topic, when I was listening to it, one of the gentlemen said that, you know, we try to fix it, but it's their job as the man to get their own healing. So ladies, take your hands off, right? Take your hands off. Mm-hmm. It is their responsibility to get their own healing. But we have to be loving and compassionate towards them, whether it's an adult man in our life or whether it's a child man in our life, okay? We have to take our hands off, know that they are God's child, and God will deal with them Our job is what? To pray, right? And to be what they need. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard. Been there, done that. I got a few t-shirts, but I've learned a whole lot of things. So, what do we need to unlearn in order to live better with our men? I'm going to throw this one to Miss Taylor.
What do we need to unlearn? So the way that I was raised, it depends on how you were raised. I am the way that I am because of my mother, which is a great thing. I was raised in a 2-parent household, but as I got older and got out on my own, I realized that my mother she was a married single parent. It was all about my mom. Mm-hmm. My mom did everything. If we ate, if we had clothes, if we got it, she gave it to us. She just taught me that as a woman, as a Black woman, there are certain things that you have to make happen. And I never let go of that. So I too was married. I was married for almost 10 years. And in that 10 years, I don't think I ever let him be head of house or be the man in the marriage, because that is not what was instilled in me. If something needed to be done, I don't care how tired I was, I did that. So part of learning how to let that go, as I've gotten older, I've learned to do that. When I got divorced, I chose to be single for some time because I wanted to do things differently. Like I wanted to do something different. So I chose to be single for a while. And then also I wanted to teach my boys something different. I'm the single parent of 2 boys. And there are certain things as Black boys, Black men that they're growing into that I want them to be able to learn to carry on in life. So I'm still in the learning process. I don't think I can absolutely tell you how to let that thing go, because I have really not been able to. I've been a single parent for 10 years. I've not had another man live with me in 10 years. It's just been me and my boys. So I've still had to be head of house. I haven't learned how to let that thing go yet. But if y'all can tell me how to do it, I'm willing to listen.
I'm willing to. You can have it. This your throne. Shonda, I want to ask you this question. What role have we played in wounding our kings?
Well, Shirley, we only got 45 minutes. That's not enough time. Let me start by saying the ways in which we've wounded. This conversation would be better had amongst men, right? So that they can tell us how they've been wounded. But one of the things that I know from listening to, did you already talk about Mr. Ronnie Russell's panel with the men healing?
Yes, I only talked about that one question about the women's role in their healing.
So Mr. Ronnie Russell had a panel with Black men discussing men's healing. And one of the things that they kept saying frequently that they needed from us as women is not so much an action on our part, but it's that they need us to listen. And so in hearing that from a bunch of different men from all different age groups, what I realized is we're not listening. Right. They're telling us what they need and what they want, and we're not hearing them because either we think we know better, or maybe they're not doing it fast enough in our mindset, or maybe they're not doing it the way that we want it done. Or maybe it's just a situation where they're learning what it means to really be the head of the household, and we're not allowing them that space to learn. But we have not listened to them, and we have not given them a non-judgmental space to be able to learn. I think that sometimes we as women expect our men to have it together when they come into a marriage with us. And I think sometimes that that's not fair to assume that they already know. There's much more life that we all have to live, not just men, but women. All of us have a lot more life left to live. And some of these things you learn in the process of doing life with another person. You don't just inherently know them. Also, too, there's a space where you're not taking into account who it is that you marry. I married a man that had a mother and father at home, 2-parent house. They're still together. They've been married for 40 years. So he came in knowing some things that my first husband did not know. My first husband did not know them because his dad was not present in his home when he was growing up. He was raised by his mother. So there were some things that he did not have the benefit of because he wasn't afforded them when he was growing up. So we have to take into account who it is that we've married and what it is that they're in need of versus what we think that men are in need of based off of what we think that we know. So we need to listen a little bit better to take off that I think I know it mentality, right? Of hand, because that's what we do as women. We think we know it. We've got it. We can handle it. And because we have handled it for so long, we think we can continue to handle it. But we leave out the other person. That makes for a one-person relationship. And relationships involve two people. So we have to listen to what it is that they say that they need, and then take them at face value at that, even if it doesn't look that way in the beginning, and allow them the space to grow. Now, I'm not saying that don't hold them accountable in that space, right? But I am saying that we give our kids all the space that they need to grow, but we won't give our men a thing.
Come on, Shonda.
And I just think it's really unfair that we would be willing to do that for the man that we're raising and not for the man that we're laying with.
That's good. That's a good nugget right there. Yes, and we don't have time to unpack that because that's another show. So we're going to pose this question to Miss Latanya. She hasn't had a chance to chime in yet. And she is the youngest member of our panel. So we're going to toss this question to her. What's the first step to reconciling the gender divide in relationships? And if you need a moment, let me know, and we will go on to the next question, because I want you to answer that question, and then we'll come back to you.
Can you repeat the question and write it down, then you can come back to me?
Yes. What's the first step to reconciling the gender divide in relationships? And if anybody else has an answer for that one too, I would love to hear it. I'm going to go to the next question. I guess I need to do this one for most of us are single on here. We have 2 married. This goes back to a topic that we had on Prison Break at the end of 2019 about submission. Why do we preach and teach husband as king if we aren't willing to submit to his kingdom's rule? I'm waiting on y'all. Somebody.
Y'all know what? Don't get me started. Listen, the older I get, the more I realize that I don't know. Okay, so it's a lot of things that I don't know. But and neither me nor my ex-husband was raised in a 2-parent household. But I think I was a submissive wife, but then again, maybe I wasn't, because look at Shonda. She said, but we don't give our husbands the same opportunity that we give our. Don't hit me across this screen, Shonda. Don't do that to me, girl. You know I don't like being hit. Okay, y'all know I don't like it. So, look, don't hit me across the screen. But you know what? That just hit me in the head. You know what I'm saying? And it's so true. The fact of the matter is, ladies, we have a lot to learn. And I want to say this. We need to start having the hard conversations, period. We need to start having the hard conversations with our men and with each other. I think part of my detriment was I never talked to anybody. I never let anybody in. That's just who I am. I always figure out stuff on my own. Shonda just proved to me she was wrong. Okay. So it was a lot of things that could have been done differently, or that were done in haste that shouldn't have been done. And so now listen, y'all, I've always been the kind of woman that take responsibility for my actions. So I always do that. So I take responsibility for that. But I can say for my household, I was not the head of my household. I don't have a problem being a submissive wife. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe that comes from watching my mother with her current husband. I don't know. I never had a problem with that, because men should be the head of the household. That's period. That, in my opinion, men should be. So for the most part, everything was done the way he wanted it to be done. And I really didn't really say a lot. And I think that's where the boiling point came, because when you come to a certain point in your life where you're older and you feel like you should have a voice, when you should have been using your voice. You know what I'm saying? Because our kings, they're not mind readers. You know what I'm saying? They can't read minds, period. And so we need to learn how to say what we mean when we say, and be forthright. And whatever friction that caused or breakage it caused, when it's healed, like Shirley said, it'll be stronger.
Yes. So we have to be careful that whatever we say is from a loving place. It is the way that God designed us to be. Why? Because not only us were we made with emotions, but they were too. So we have to allow them to express themselves in a manner that is going to be conducive with healing. So I know a lot of us were raised, or we said to our young men, don't cry, or that's crying is for girls, and all those types of things, or get up, be more man about it, those types of things. And so we have to, as women, we have to be mindful of what we say to our young boys. We have to be mindful of what we say to our teenage boys. Why? Because they're going to grow up and to be adult men, and then they're not going to be able to express themselves in the manner that is going to be best for them to heal. And there's a long comment. I might have to take a second to read that in a second. So Siani, what are some things that you were taught or observed that fit into the superwoman image that Black women are expected to uphold?
Just to do whatever it takes. I mean, within your morals, your values, and with, under God. But just if you don't have a man, you have to do it all. You don't have a choice, especially if you have kids. It's not about you at that point. It's about the kids. So, kids need to eat, make it happen, make the money, get some food. I mean, electric, rent need to be paid, get out there and work. I mean, just pretty much the same concept as every other Black woman. Just make it happen.
Okay.
My mom, she was married, but I still saw her being the strong point in the house most of the times, and I still seen her making it happen. So part of the time she was married, and then like the latter half of my young adulthood, from like middle school to high school, it was all her. Yeah. It was definitely all her. And she's always worked. We've always went to church. We used to live in church pretty much. Choir. We had to do every ministry they had in the church. We opened the church and closed the church. But I will say, I believe that that's really what kept everything together.
Okay.
Shirley, can you ask that question again?
Yes. What are some things that you were taught or observed that fit into the superwoman image that Black women are expected to uphold? And we're gonna make that into what Black men are expected to uphold to, because we want to bring this back around to them. And I'm seeing a pattern here, and I'll be talking about that pattern in a little bit. We might not get to it tonight, but it's gonna be a whole nother discussion. You had an answer for that, Taylor? And then I'm going to read a comment that someone put on
I
Facebook.
think Shonda had her hand up. She wanted to say something, so I'll yield to Shonda.
I don't know if this is the right place to say what I have to say, but I'm just going to say it because I'm witnessing a pattern too. And I think that I fell into this pattern in the beginning, that there wasn't a man around, so I had to do it all. And one of the things that I had to come to terms with after I got married was, why did I put myself in a position where there was no man around? Why am I allowing myself to have children and their fathers are not present, or I'm not married? Why am I not taking responsibility for that particular portion? And so I think that a lot of times the images that we've seen are of single Black women who are making it happen, or of women who have a partner who is not holding up his end of the bargain and they're making it happen. And so we think that this is the template, but that should not be the template. We should not be marrying men or having sex with men or having children with men who have not proven themselves as men and who are not ready to be men and handle the responsibilities of a household, because we set ourselves up to then have to be the superwoman because we have chosen a mate who is not deciding to do what needs to be done as a husband and a father. And that's not to point at him and say, oh, you're not doing your job. But a lot of times we catch men in development. That means that we catch them in a place where they have not fully developed into a man. They have some good potential. They have some great qualities, right? And eventually they're going to be a great man, but we have caught them before they have gotten to that point. And then we have tried to put them into a place where now we're forcing them to be men, and they have not learned what it means to be a man, how to be a man, what that looks like. They don't even know themselves. All they know is how to play. And so we take them at that play stage and we try to make them work, and they're not ready to work. So then we get angry, and now we're single and we're independent and we're alone, and we're looking at why it is that I'm trying to pass this man the head of household torch, and he ain't doing what he's supposed to be doing. Well, sis, you should have been doing what you were doing yet. He wasn't ready.
Right.
Exactly.
He wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we have to own our personal responsibility in choosing men that are not ready for the task that we're trying to hand them, right? And then we have to pull back and stop saying that it's a problem with the men. It's a problem in what we allow is
Absolutely.
what the problem is.
Yeah.
And so I love you, my sisters. I do. Y'all know I do. But I had to look at myself and say what I was doing, because had I allowed myself to continue on the path I was on, I would have had 3 babies with no daddy instead of just the one that I did. Because I was allowing him to continue to play. I was allowing him to be unaccountable for what it was that he was missing out on. I was not choosing good partners. And so it wasn't fair to the men that were coming after him, because by me being hurt by the one who didn't do what I thought he should do, I then held the other ones after him accountable. And I began to get bitter towards men because the one that I let do some things, right, didn't do what I wanted him to do. So we have to pull back a little bit and look at ourselves for a second and see what it is that we're allowing and what type of men we're keeping company with before it is that we start to point the finger at men for not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Stop grabbing boys and wait until they're developed into men.
Come on, Shonda. I love it. And so that's why it's also very important for us to be equally yoked. And equally yoked does not just mean in the spiritual arena. Equally yoked means his purpose, his vision. If you don't align in those two, baby, don't do it.
And
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I want to add one more thing too, Shirley, because when you get to that point where you realize that you're in a space where you're unequally yoked, you can't just say, okay, you know what, I'm just going to take over.
Right.
Because he don't know what he's doing. And I'm saying that because I made that mistake.
Me too.
We forget that by trying to uphold God's biblical vision of what marriage is, there are biblical tools that need to be applied. And if we have married in a space where we are unequally yoked, it is now our responsibility then to get into prayer, to use that biblical tool in combination with that biblical vision to help bring that thing to pass. Like, we then have to take our feelings out of it and say, okay, self, I married a man that wasn't where I needed him to be. He's not yet a man. He's a boy. And now he has to develop, and I have to give him that space to develop. Okay, God, now keep me from being bitter and frustrated in this space. Keep me, Lord, from taking responsibility that's not mine and making it mine. Help me, Lord, to be able to encourage and support this man without trying to raise this man, because that's not my job. You know, help him, Lord, to turn into the man that you desired for him to be, Lord, not me, Lord, trying to force him to be my picture of a man that is off already, because I don't even know what it means to be a man in the first place. So help me, Lord, to keep my lips to myself, right? And off of your anointed. Yes. And Lord, you do it.
Yes.
And Lord, you do it, and hold him accountable in the way that God says to hold him accountable, with loving kindness, right? And give him that space to grow, but not let him off the hook, because he still has a responsibility. He married me too. Now, I made a choice in choosing somebody who wasn't mature, but he made a choice too, knowing he wasn't mature. So, okay, we both got to grow up now.
Yes. And the key point is growing up together, because a lot of women are not women. They still little girls playing around and having children as children raising children at 40 years old. So we cannot blame all of them, because we have our own part to play. And so I would admonish every person to go take stock of yourself. Don't blame anybody else. Allow God to be God, and him alone. I'm telling you, when I allow God to take the scales off my eyes, oh my God, everything changed. Do you hear me? And I'm a much better woman for it because of that. Stop blaming. Examine yourself. Do what you're supposed to do, because you can't make nobody else do anything. Go ahead, Tiani. And I want to come back to this comment, this long comment, because this is very something that I want to bring out. And we are running out of time, but go ahead, Tiani.
It really goes into another conversation, just to piggyback off of what Shonda said. Well, also, and what Kiana said, she said those hard conversations that we really don't talk about. Like, what are we really teaching our little girls growing up? What are we really showing them? What are we really having them to see? What are they looking at every day? What are they listening to? Are they listening to a man talk to you any type of way?
Come on.
Like, that has to go somewhere. They're going to grow up in that. That's just going to get bigger for them. So what they see when they're younger is what they're going to be attracted to just automatically, because that's what they're used to. That's what they're used to hearing. That's what they're used to being around. So really, we should start with our kids young and early, talking to them, showing them different things, showing them what's acceptable and what's not. Because if not, then they'll fall for anything, you know, and that's like it's a generational thing. It's not, you know, a young lady might not know, and she might get caught up in a way, and she might later on learn. However, she really can't blame her mom, because her grandmother might have not been taught, or you never know a person's situation, so you shouldn't judge them. But what we can do is pray for each other and start teaching our kids right now. Like, yesterday is past. Let's teach them right now. We can start from here, and we can teach them right now.
Yes. We want to get back to Latanya. I posed that question to her, and we want to give her an opportunity to reply. So go ahead, Latanya.
Okay, I think you said, what's the first step to reconcile the gender divided in marriage, right?
Yes, in relationships.
In relationships. So I believe first, I think not my problem, but I think we first have to submit to God. I think Shonda talked about how we put certain gender roles on women and men, and we kind of do what we kind of learned growing up. So we're doing that, and that's what we see. So we thinking, like, for me, my mom and dad was married for 30 something years, and my husband, he grew up with just his mother. So what I'm seeing is that, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I see my mom, do a lot of things. So I'm like, I can do those same things. So I don't really, it was me putting in a place, like, kind of like I don't need him to help me with stuff. So it's like I didn't let my husband help me with certain things. It was more of, I can take the trash out, I can change the tire, I can take a pull down, I can hammer a nail, I can hang this up, I can do these type of things. So I think what I think is actually getting back to what God say a woman is supposed to do. And I think that's what I'm starting to get into now. And as you mentioned, I'm a lot younger, so I'm really, really diving into that point. So what is it as a woman that I'm supposed to do? Because I'm thinking, well, if my husband's at work, well, I'll go to hammer, take the hammer out the tire. I'll take me a couple tries, but I'll get it out. You know what I'm saying? Instead of, let me just maybe wait till my husband get off and he can help me, with those kind of things. So in general, I think it's just getting back to what God said a man is supposed to do, or a woman is supposed to do. So that's what I think about that question.
Okay. Thank you for your input. And so every household is going to be different. And I don't want to stifle any woman who wants to do that. Because I know, coming through the military, we were taught all kinds of stuff. It didn't have anything to do with a man or a woman. We were soldiers, right? So you do what the mentor says you're going to do. And it was a good thing and it was a bad thing. So it has to do with
seasonal, Shirley.
It's what?
It's seasonal.
Yeah.
You go through different seasons. There's different seasons where it's appropriate for you to be independent and to not be looking for someone to assist you. And then it's seasons where you go through where you have to yield and submit certain spaces. You just have to know what season and time that you're in. I can't be the same woman that I was when I was Sergeant Curb, because I'm not Sergeant Curb anymore. I am now Mrs. Curb. So I now have to be the Mrs. I can't be running around here like I'm still a soldier. It's all seasonal. You just have to know what season that you're in. But that comes in tune. That comes with being in tune with who you are and who God is to you and where he's leading you in your life.
Yes. So I'm gonna throw this in
And
here.
also, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go
And
ahead.
also, look, Miss Shonda said you got it's about certain seasons, and I think I had this picture of like I want to be seen that I can do all these things. I don't want to feel like sort of like I need somebody. Sort of, it's like I can prove I can do this. I can change this tire, with no help, or I can do all of these things. I can cook, clean, make sure all these things are done without needing help. So it was more of like myself trying to prove that I could do all these things, and not necessarily. Sometimes I'm like, man, I'm a little bit tired, but I'm like,
None of those things that he
how can
asked you to do, did he?
No.
So we have to be mindful that a man was made as a provider. And when we strip that from him, then he feels unneeded and unwanted. And I don't know about none of y'all, but I need a man and I want a man. And I'm not putting out no disclaimers or none of that. But I need a man and I want a man and I can do it all. But guess what? When I get one, I'm not doing it all. Okay? We can do it together, or he can do it, or it won't get done. Okay? So we just have to retrain our minds. We have to understand that we come from different places. If you marry somebody who is from New York and you're from a very small town in the middle of absolutely nowhere, your concept of life is going to be totally different. So we have to take those things into consideration. Here's a comment that someone put up. It says, I think we give it to them. And I think this was going back to the comment where we're talking about them being as the head of the household. I think we give it to them, but we know how to get it done. So we feel like they need to get with it, or we will keep moving. Strong women can't slow down, and a man should respect that and communicate what they need help with so we can get things done. Sis, I want to tell you that I want you to sit and I want you to marinate, because if God gave you that man, if it were done in the proper manner in the first place, we have to work with them. They cannot read our minds. They did not come from the same place that we came from. So we have to be mindful of these things. And this is how homes are being torn up, but because we got two heads bumping heads, and we have to give them their places. Go ahead, Shonda.
I just wanted to just add one thing. I agree with you, Shirley, but I think one of the issues that we have is communication. Yes. And I think it's that we as women don't understand how men communicate, and men don't understand how to communicate with us. And so there's a gap where I think men are trying to communicate, but they're doing it in their way. And we haven't caught on to their language yet. And we need to sit and study that as women. And every man has a language of his own, and you have to sit and study that man, just the same as I have a language of my own. And what worked for my husband's ex-wife don't work for me.
Correct.
He has to study me and understand how. That's right. He has to study and understand my language. And he and I make a joke about that all the time. Like, I'll do something and my husband will pick up on what it is that I'm in need of, and he'll do it. And one of the kids will be like, Dad, how'd you know that she needed that? I speak Shonda, is what he says. He speaks my language. He understands me but that comes from studying. So you have to study your partner. So you need to study the man that you're with, because he may be communicating and you may not understand it. The same way that you understand your baby cries with no words, and each one means something different, is the same way that we can study our husbands and understand what they're trying to communicate without them actually using the words. Like I said before, we just give more space and place to our children than it is that we do the man that we're laying with. And we have to reverse that.
Yes. Y'all got a free session. Give it up for the counselor.
It ain't free. I'm invoicing everybody. I'm sending everybody invoices.
Yes. So we do have to make sure that we are, first of all, going back to the Creator, to making sure that we are in a right relationship with Him. And this thing called life, it's a journey. Man, this whole thing is a process. And a lot of times we don't get it right the first go round. But if we will take the lessons that we need to learn from the first go round or second go round, or how many ever go rounds it was, then we can make it to that place of Goshen, so to speak. So we can get to that place where we're not having to strive for things. And so I through my military time and going through a whole lot and being a businesswoman and all these kind of things, I had gotten so busy and doing a whole lot of stuff. But in that busy, I had lost my ear to hear what the Lord was trying to say to me. And a lot of us do that. Why? Because we're coping. We are coping. If we will sit down and take a moment to hear what God is trying to tell us, we could be so much better. Women and men alike. We don't have to have every dollar. When we are in right standing with God, when we can know our purpose and our value and our strength, and when we know our man's value and his strength, and we can work together with him, you don't have to chase a dollar. Baby, the dollar will chase you. Do you hear me? And then you can go to the places where he'll call you to go together, and you don't have to be alone. So I want us to open up our hearts, and I want us to open up our minds to what the Lord is trying to say to us. And sometimes we have to go through that wilderness spot, right? So that we can get to that next place where we need to go to. How many more minutes do we have left? It is now 7:40. So we have about 15 minutes. We've gone through a good bit of these questions. I don't think I asked this question. I'm going to pose this to Siani. I'm going to give this question to a couple of people. How can we as women hold our men accountable without being oppressive? Go ahead, Siani.
Okay. How can we hold our men accountable without being oppressive, oppressing them? Not by listening, just as she said earlier, listening more when they need that ear, instead of all of the opinions or the comments or the backlash or just what have you. And also by building them up, giving them something positive, a good word, complimenting them. And just the small stuff matters too, having lunch ready, having dinner ready. That's what women do anyway, but some don't, to be honest with you. But just the small stuff, being positive and just staying in your lane, staying in your role as the woman, and knowing what your role is under God. Okay. So I just want to make this disclaimer, because all of our roles are different in our own homes. Okay. So what works for one couple may not necessarily work for another. So we don't want to bottle anybody into one distinct pattern. If it works for you and your spouse, then that works for you and your spouse. But if what you're doing is not working, reevaluate that thing. Okay. Because not every woman can cook. Some men cook a whole lot better than women do. Okay. And so however that works for you in your home, just make it work. But if he cooking, daggone it, you better clean up. That's foreplay. I can only say that because I've been married. Okay. You go out there and you cutting the grass, baby, I'm taking the weed whacker out. We're going to get done together. That's foreplay. All right. So however you do it in your married home, because I don't advocate for, fornication and adultery and all that kind of stuff. But, what you do in your home as a married couple, that's what can work for you. But again, it all goes back to being equally yoked in everything. If y'all don't have the same interests, how is that going to work? It's not. How can two walk together unless they agree? Okay. So, what other questions do I have? I really wish there was some men that was on. I don't know, because you can't tell who is live with you at that moment. But there are some other things. Shonda, I want you to chime in because I know you always have something to say. So as I'm looking through these questions and see if we covered them all, because I think we did. I did have Taylor, I will ask you the same question. How can we as women hold our men accountable without being oppressive? And that's the key word, without being oppressive.
Okay, communication. But I want to go back to what one of the sisters was talking about when she was saying little girls and how they were raised and things like that. Well, that goes for little boys too. So my two boys are one of many, many young Black men that are being raised by a single parent, a mother. So what is it that I am going to do with them to make sure that they are the men that we are talking about?
Yes.
So when I got divorced, one of my fears was, I'm a woman. How am I raise two little boys to be great men? It can be done. And what I'm grateful for is that as an adult after divorce, I did have help. So where mama fell short, they had an uncle that would step in and that would teach them certain things. So, you know, we in this thing together. But I tell my kids all the time, I do all the grocery shopping. Guess what? You want to help, you're going to do something. You want to eat, you're going to do something. So my son at 16 can make you a whole dinner. You know, and we sit down and eat. I had a 17-year-old that could retile the floor. I know because he did it in the basement by himself. He has changed pipes. He has, you know, changed tires on cars. And not to say that is only what a man can do, because I'm gonna tell y'all what Taylor can do, a many of things. So, but it's like, what am I doing with them to make sure that they grow up to be Black men that don't fall short? And so that is something that I struggled with in the beginning, but caught wind of very quick. And so I educate them and I teach them and I have the hard conversations with them. And as a parent, what you have to do also is make sure that your children can talk to you. I tell my brother all the time, I am so surprised that two boys talk to me about some of the things that they talk to me about. I'm surprised, but I'm grateful because they're not getting that information from somewhere else. They're not getting that information from somebody else, from the street or from the wrong place. They're getting it from their mother. So I'm grateful for that. But I'm really surprised that they had, you know, like little boys would talk to mom about that. But it's something that I have had that help with. My mother is still involved. My brother is involved. So they get it from everywhere now because they had an absent father for about the first 6-7 years post the divorce. So it was pretty much all about us and what we did with them and instilled in them and the things that we held them accountable for as they were growing up. You can't let them get away with a lot of stuff. You have to teach them the way that things are right now. And I think that I had my older son graduated about 2 weeks ago from high school. And I think I had posted something along the lines on Facebook that said, just have faith in what you did with them. Have faith and hope and pray that they do not depart from it. Because I am going to have faith. I have an 18-year-old Black 6'2" son who is going away to college this year. You want to know how much faith that takes? That I'm sending him off, especially in society the way it is right now and things that are going on. He's not taking a car the first year to school, has nothing to do with some other things. But yeah, you gotta do certain things to help them because they have to go out in the world and they have to be people. Not only are they probably going to be mates to someone, but they have to be people in society. And society is going to hold them accountable. So guess what? It starts right here. It starts right here. So it can be done, us women, but there are so many of these boys, these young men that are growing up in single parent households, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. It's what you do with that situation that matters. So I have done the best that I can, and I just have to hope that what me and my family and even their dad, now that he's involved, have put into them is going to stick with them because we have taught them great things. So it's boys and it's girls. It's a mixture of the both.
Thank you, Taylor. And we applaud you for your time of raising your sons to be great young men and teaching them the right way. We still want our men back on the throne. And we mean the right men. We don't mean just any man, because not all men are men and not all women are women. Okay. So somebody chimed in that respect is an aphrodisiac. In the Bible, it talks about men loving their wives, right? But wives respecting their husbands. Above all else, they need respect. Okay? When we respect them, they can feel it. And they will feel the love that comes with that too. Okay, we as women, we need love, and whatever our love language is, because all of us express love in different ways. Some of us express it in 2 to 3 different ways, but we have our different needs and our different wants. So when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, to be open and honest with our own needs and theirs, we can go so much further. I would admonish each of you and everyone that's listening, whether you're listening by Facebook or you're watching by YouTube, or you see this on a replay later on, that you examine yourself, okay? Because I know sometimes we have to have that hard talk with ourselves, because we've done it one way for so long and we think that's the right way. But does it line up? Does it line up? If we are a believer, does it line up with the word of God? If you're not a believer, does it line up with whatever it is that you believe in? And is it working for you? If it's not working for you, change it. What closing remarks do you have? We're going to start with Latanya first in the bottom corner.
I would say my closing remarks is I kind of feel like I'm on here listening to y'all and like writing down stuff and applying all this stuff to myself. But I would say, as you guys say, stay in faith, stay in God, and He'll continue to give you the path that you need to be on. Regardless if you stray away, try to get back to those things, to those true core values that's in the Bible and telling you how to live your life, and you will begin to feel free, because that's what I'm starting to feel now. Being I met these ladies here, it makes you feel free when you're really trying to live your life right. And I don't know, I just feel like I'm like walking on water. I told Miss Shirley told me to look at some movie called Shack, and he was walking on water, and I kind of feel like that, not actually like I'm out in the pool or something like that, but I really feel like I'm going somewhere, I'm getting somewhere. I feel like a high or something like that. So it's like a different kind of high, not like weed and kind of drinking type thing. But I really, really feel amazing. I think once you get to that point where you really know yourself, when you're really into God, you will literally transform your life. You will still encounter some problems and things like that, because I do as well. And like today was all over the place, and I was like, I'm not missing this thing. I'm gonna get on here even if I'm late. I run into a lot of things, but I'm telling you, stay in faith, and it really has helped me out so much.
Amen. Thank you so much, Latanya. It's always great to see that someone's life has been impacted by the things that we do. So thank you so much for your testimony. Kiana, what are your closing remarks?
I just want to say, bring back the village. This has been so wonderful. Some of the stuff I'm learning late, but yet I'm learning, right? Never too late, right? Long as you learn that thing. And so I'm just honored. And I think part of the problem is we don't have that village mentality anymore. We don't nobody telling us nothing, or we don't want to seek counsel. We got everything on our own. So my last thing is just bring back the village. Learn your love language. Men listen to women, and women listen to your men. And it's very important. And wait a minute, this isn't just for married men. We need kings that are going to help women when they see somebody by the road. We need kings who are going to be kings in the community when they see something happening to a woman, that they step in. So it's about kingship in a home, but it's about kingship in the community as well.
Yes.
So we need kingship in the community and kingship in our homes. And that's all I have to say. It's been wonderful, ladies. Thank you.
That's good, Kiana. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Siani.
So my closing statement is that I definitely want to be married to, and I want a husband and a man and a mate or whatnot, but I'm not going to settle for less either. I'm not going to put myself in positions that I don't want to be in positions that I've already learned from. I have grown a lot, and I'm just not willing to settle. So when God brings a man and we can agree and we are equally yoked and we can grow together, then there we go. Then my family will start and begin and all of that. But I'm just definitely not willing to settle. There were some great points made as far as letting the man be the head of putting self to the side, because most women, a lot of women I know, they're very strong minded. So sometimes we have to put self to the side to let the man be the man, because in our regular self, we know how to do things that are not conducive to letting the man be the man. So just put self to the side sometimes. Start somewhere, you know.
Yes. Go ahead, Taylor.
So I don't have an original thought right now, but I'm piggybacking off of everybody else because I'm going to tell you I'm a product of the village as an adult. Yes, as a child, they say of the village, but even as an adult, I have had some great women, to include all of you guys, that have come into my life in my 20s and 30s that have taught me some remarkable things. And so the village does work, and we do need to bring that back. We need to stop being the, you can't tell me these are mine, you're not going to tell me how to raise them. Yes, that is the truth, but we can always learn a different way to do it. It may not be better, but different. And I agree with sis. Most people do not believe this, especially in my work environment. I've pretty much been single for 10 years because I don't want to settle. I've dated, but I've not been in a relationship that has been committed in a very long time because I will not settle. And I found this thing a long time ago, and I have this in my private space that says, perhaps we should love ourselves so fiercely when others see us, they know exactly how it should be done. That is what I want. I'm not settling. And so until he comes to me, until it is found, until God sends him, I'm content with where I am. Yes, we all want to have that mate, but I'm okay with where I am right now. So yes, that's all I have to say. But this has been an amazing experience. I've learned so much from all of you. And hopefully I was a good attribute to this conversation. Love you guys.
So much, Taylor.
One other thing, as you were talking, I just thought of something too. I've met some really good guys. I really have, but it hasn't worked out because I'm not willing to. Guys nowadays, for some reason, they're wanting to test the water before they want to put the ring on it and make it right. So that's just something I'm not willing to do personally, and that's what's been the deal breaker for the guys that I have met. So how to counteract that, I don't know, because I don't approach men. So what do y'all think about that? So
well, that's an off-camera discussion. That's an off-camera discussion, but we want to uplift our men. That is the purpose of what Prison Break, breaking down walls, mind, body, and spirit is about, helping people to get back to their rightful places, first of all, in Christ, and then being reconciled one towards another. And so that's really the platform that we want to come from, helping our society to heal, and to be better. So that is a off the air conversation. We can dig into it, but it won't be tonight. Go ahead, Miss Sandy, your closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts are, I think we would avoid a lot of this if we were in purpose before we got in relationships. If we really knew what God called us to, so we wouldn't be marrying a boy, because he would already had his manhood assigned to him, and he will understand what direction he's going in. Many times we're trying to be the head because we're trying to push the head in a direction because he don't have any. My pastor in Detroit used to say, a woman's not going to follow a parked car. So we're dating these men that's parked sometimes and trying to put gas in them, change the tire, and push them down the street instead of just waiting for them to realize their purpose.
Yes. Go ahead, Miss Shonda.
I just had two things. One, I just wanted to read 1 Corinthians 11. Yeah. Man is made in God's image and reflects God's glory, and woman reflects man's glory. Among the Lord's people, women are not independent of men, and men are not independent of women. For although the first woman came from a man, every other man was born from a woman, and everything comes from God. And so with that being said, we were made to be in connection and relationship with each other. Mm-hmm. There's no such thing as an independent woman,
Right.
There's no such thing as an independent man.
Mm-hmm.
We all should be submitted one to another, and then we all should be submitted to God. And so with that being said, once we get back to that space of being submitted to God, we won't have any problems with learning how to interact with each other. We definitely have to keep God as part of that 3-string cord. And when we don't do that, then we end up in a position where our kings are no longer part of our household. So I just want to encourage everyone who's listening that it's not too late. If you've been in that situation where you have not made space for a king and you ready to have a king back on the throne, baby, move aside. He'll be there. The Lord will send him. If you are a king and you have no queen to rule by your side because you've been chopping and screwing, well, guess what? Move aside and let her get in that space. Okay. And so it's not too late for any of us to have what it is that God says that we can have. We just have to submit unto God and move out of the spaces of the people that we want to be in those places. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Shonda. Well, y'all have totally blessed me on tonight. It's been a marvelous Prison Break with Shirley and Shonda. You've been watching on tonight. I just want to give y'all some tidbits, and then we're going to get off here because I have a meeting right now that I need to be on. So next week, everyone, War Room, the movie, we are going to be watching that as a virtual group. It's going to be 23 June. So the 23rd of June is on a Tuesday night at 7:00 p.m. We are going to start that next Bible study. So next week, we'll just be watching the movie together. That's going to give you time to go ahead and get your War Room study guide material. If you want to, you don't have to purchase it, but it can be found on Amazon. Go ahead. Thank you, Sandy. You can go ahead and purchase that because after that, we're going to be digging in to 5 weeks of study on the War Room. I did this back in 2018, and I promise you it was some chains broken. So if you are ready to move forward in your life,
amen,
join us on next week. There is a Facebook invite that is out. It is public, and I'm going to post it the link later on tonight after I get off of here out of my meeting, so that you can get that link. It is by registration only, so make sure that you register for the War Room. If you have not liked Prison Break with Shirley and Shonda on our Facebook page, or if you have not gone onto Instagram and liked us, if you have not gone onto YouTube and subscribed, please do those 3 things. Go ahead and like and share. I promise you there are some life-giving tools on Prison Break with Shirley and Shonda. So y'all be blessed, and we're going to get off of here, and we'll be back on another day with whatever the Lord has on our hearts to give. All right, y'all be blessed. And Kings, we really do need you. I've got to say that.